There comes a moment when you've exhausted all your options while simultaneously coming across a product that reinvents your notion about what an honest and high-quality company looks like. The Healing Rose was the catalyst to that very moment for me. The Healing Rose Company is a female-owned Massachusetts CBD company based out of Newburyport that prides themselves in using only the best USDA-certified organically sourced ingredients for their vast line of therapeutic products. Their line stretches from lip balms, tinctures, skin balms, roll-on oils, and bath products. Their transparency places them above the rest with third-party tested results showcasing their intolerance to toxic pesticides, solvents, metals, and harmful elements. They provide full-spectrum CBD in many of their products, excluding their tinctures, which carry a broad-spectrum profile, ideal for not having to worry about any low-level THC, which is common for many CBD products. That one's my favorite, and it's good on the palate. Full-spectrum means that they extract from the hemp plant an array of different therapeutic cannabinoids along with CBD and their profile terpenes. The combination results in a greater outcome of healing and relaxation for any individual's needs. Whether you are an athlete looking for any recovery advantage, a patient in need of some relief to remind yourself that you are still a warrior, or someone who sees the frontiers of life with a little reserve and want to calm the mental storms that keep you from personally exploring, the Healing Rose CBD Company is here for your full body and mind optimization. Please visit thehealingroseco.com to explore their diverse line of products and support one of New England's best rising stars in an industry where ethics are fundamental, and a company like this will only be found sitting at the throne of it all. Use the code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit thehealingroseco.com and use the promo code SAGAS at checkout for 10% off your purchase. To the many martial artists, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and thinkers, how often, for your own sake, would you love a symbolic reminder of your mentality and the perfect dichotomy to match? Murder Nerd is an independent clothing apparel line that represents the sharp, relentless focus towards personal growth and athletics. It embodies the vitality of their creative owners and the network of people who run on the same frequency. Why not elevate your frequency in comfort and style? Visit www.murdernerdsfitness.com for their personal line of shirt and hat wear. Enter the promo code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit murdernerdfitness.com and enter the promo code SAGAS for 10% off your purchase. Bingo, bingo. All right. We're in it again. All right. So before I get into this, I just wanted to address something real quick in case there was any questions, because I actually got this. I had a good friend reach out to me today, and who is interested in a sauna. And, you know, depending on kind of what experience you're looking for, there's a lot of different ones. I use the portable one. And when I mean portable, I don't mean that in a sense of like I like it because it's convenient to take it with me, because I literally haven't taken it anywhere. I like it because it's small. It fits in the corner of the guest room, and I can just kind of tuck away and do it. But a big part of it is that my head sticks out of the top of this, so it just feels like a nice little zip-up tent. You get a little camping chair in the middle of it and you just sit in it. I'm not the biggest guy, and this chair is not very big, so it definitely jabs into parts of my legs sometimes. So I would suggest, you know, if you're like over $180, $190, that maybe you get like your own kind of aftermarket like fishing chair, where it's a little flatter, and maybe a little wider too. But, you know, the question was kind of like, what's better, right? And I don't know if it's so much the answer of one being better or just really what your needs are. Because you can buy saunas that come in these really high-end attachable panels, right? Like you can, it's like you put together a closet in a way. Comes with a bench, comes with the infrared panels, comes with the ceiling, the floor, everything, the door, and you just connect them and put them together. You can get them in like a single person sauna. You can get them installed. You can get them in, 2 or 3 or 4, like a 4-person sauna. And I think that both probably have their advantages. I think that if you want to start sooner than later, I think for the money, the portable one works well, to me very well. And I like that my head's sticking out the top, because sometimes being in that sauna room itself, it gets so hot and you're breathing in the hot air that in itself, it may have some advantage to it, but it might hinder a lot of people's ability to stay in that room. And then you might get out, and then you're still going to get a lot of good out of your session, but maybe staying in a little bit longer would help further whatever you're trying to do. And you won't be able to do that if you're kind of overwhelmed with being in the room. So, having the head out of the top of this tent, it lets you breathe a little easier. You're still sweating from your forehead. And it kind of lets you last. Like for me, every time I come in here, my go-to is 140 degrees at 30 minutes or 35 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling and if I want to extend it. I've never reached 150. I probably won't. There's no need to go over that, at least for me. And there's a school of thought where even going low temperature, but for longer, can be just as beneficial, right? So you could go at 120 for maybe 40 minutes opposed to like 150 for 15 minutes. Some people's body kind of can't take that quick shock, and you'll get lightheaded and dizzy and things like that. And especially if you're somebody that kind of, is trying to use it to better their health, and you're sick in general. If you have an autoimmune problem or whatever it is, you might have a body that's kind of more sensitive to these things. So to start out slow and low will benefit you. And it's nice because it's not as hot, but you're staying in there longer, so that you kind of accumulate I would call it like you're accumulating the amount of stress. So then eventually you get to that peak of sweating, and it might be later opposed to 5 minutes in, like at a higher temperature. Yeah, I don't really know if I even answered my own question with that, but I like the tent ones. I'd love to have one installed. They're both kind of for different reasons. But a guy that I follow on YouTube, his name is Matthew Justice. If you look him up, he's got tons of videos. He actually uses all these saunas. He measures the EMFs in the room and in the tent. He goes through the different kind of heating panels. What's better, whether an infrared sauna or a full spectrum sauna, what the differences are, how you can utilize it for your health, and he just does a lot of different reviews and kind of breakdown videos of a whole assortment of different saunas. And he has a website, I think it's called certifiedsaunas.com, and he has everything kind of written out on there. So that was my go-to when I first started getting into this. That and a bunch of different research papers that Rhonda Patrick had put out, because she was like, she was very, very into this. She was very much like an evangelist when it came to how great the sauna was. And I tend to listen to a lot of what she says, you know. I've actually interacted with her a little bit just online, and she's a very nice and good person because she gives you her time. So, yeah, I would use that guy as a resource if you're thinking about it, and if it's confusing you on kind of what to get. And I actually got my sauna because of a video he did. So, anyways, what I wanted to do in this one was, I think it's time. I've been thinking about this for a little while, and I've just become much more comfortable with this. And I think that it's, you know, there's a saying like, you know, there's a saying of like coming out of the closet, right? We all kind of know what that obviously means. And in the context of like a couple years ago with cannabis, right? We have to come out of the cannabis closet, because the idea is that the more that you let your peers know, let your family know, let people know, in hopefully not an obnoxious way, that you practice and indulge in some of these things, then the stigma kind of dies down. The stigma gets dismantled in the perception of people that hold the stigma. And the way that it breaks down is because you are a good person, you are a productive, you're a family person, you're a high-functioning person, you're a career-oriented person. And a lot of the stigma around certain types of compounds and medicines and quote-unquote drugs, you know, they're attached to a certain like character that people have seen growing up, or that the media has pushed onto people. So it's important to do that. And I think some people, they feel that it's a gamble, but I think that if you represent yourself in general very well, then you're only doing a service to the community and to the thing itself if you do come out of the closet. And if this one thing is going to be what would you call it? The main point for somebody scrutinizing you when they already know you, then maybe it's time to kind of let some people go anyways, because they were just holding on to you with a thread in the first place, really. So to move on to that, I think that it's time to come out of the psychedelic closet. And I say that because this is a movement that, to me, is very, very important, right? Marijuana was one thing, and that was very important for a lot of people, whether you were a patient in a spectrum of different things: depression, anxiety, pain, PTSD, ADD, really, whatever it was, that cannabis had helped a lot of those people, and they became huge advocates for it. And for me, this is kind of where I'm at with this, where people know me. I try to be very honest with who I am as much as I can be. I try to be as calculated as I can be with how I treat people and how I treat myself for the most part. So in coming out of the psychedelic kind of closet, I guess, I know that I have a responsibility to represent it in my eyes, a good way. And a little bit of a backstory to at least my experience really was like about a year before I even took my first, I would call it medication or tool, you know. I'm trying to find new words for these because I'm kind of tired of the drug word. You know, there's too many things. It's a loaded word. There's too many things attached to it, and I think we need to kind of steer away from using that term. So I would say, geez, this was almost like 2 years after I got back from school. So I'd say, like, I don't know. This is at least 10 years ago, and about a year and a half, 2 years before my first experience. And I started looking into it And I'm sure I mentioned in a couple episodes ago, I ran into the Gabor Mate stuff, and I had never done anything. But the things I'm looking into, it's like you're looking at the summit of some of these substances, like ayahuasca and all these things. Like, for one, not accessible to me. Two, I don't know if I'm ready for that. That's a very intense, real experience. Multiple experiences, really, because you don't just do ayahuasca in one night. You know, there's ritual to it. There's a ceremony around it, and it's prolonged between splitting it up in like 4 or 5 days. So that was just not going to be for me. But as I kind of kept going through it and finding more information and testimonials and really reading research on it, I began to really become so intrigued by it that I naively kind of subscribed to the positive notion around the whole thing before even trying it. I mean, I even wrote my own research paper for school when I started attending school again. I'd like to say I got an A on that, by the way. But I worked my ass off on that, and the whole idea, it was a research paper, but it was under the umbrella of like an argumentative research paper, and how psilocybin mushrooms should be reclassified. And I use a lot of like literature that came from clinics that were using veterans, and how they were getting through a lot of their wartime trauma and their PTSD. And then just learning about the mechanisms of how these compounds just work in the brain. So fast forward a little bit, you know, I'm where I'm at. I understand set and setting. And I made it a point in my mind that when I was going to do this, I was going to treat it like a quest, right? I needed to have respect for it, because I was nervous. If you're not nervous the first time you do this, I don't even know. I don't know what that is. I can't understand that, because you got to have a little nut to initially try one of these things, because of the experience, because of the emotional overflow that could happen, because of the visions, because also the very real sense of not being in control. And that's a scary part, because we want to feel in control. Most people's anxiety come from not having control in their life, you know, and we like to pretend and think that we do have it by all the little movements that we do during the day, right? And I know that's kind of a loaded thing, and that comes off very like cryptic, but you know, so I knew set and setting, and I went into this with a lot of respect, and I wanted something out of it. So this wasn't just going to be, let's just do it and laugh, and if that happens, that's great. But I wanted something transformative. And I went into it knowing, like, telling myself, I know I feel something. I know I have something wrong with me. I don't feel comfortable in my mind. I don't feel comfortable in my skin. I'm constantly trying to wind up the monkey so that when I let it go, hopefully it gives off enough of a show and I don't run out of that wind up, you know? Because it was hard for me to just be natural. And it was hard for me to kind of reconcile just random fears I had. And I didn't want that. This was all before obviously having a child. And I even told myself, like, there is something that changes in you mentally. And if you're able to pass on your anxieties and whatever that is, your genes, and if you can manipulate them by the power of kind of rewiring your thinking circuits, then that's what I want for this. I want to pass on my best part to my child. So I need to understand what the hell's wrong with me. I need to re-establish my mind so that that gets passed on. And that was important to me. And I made a conscious decision to help, as weird as it sounds, try to help my future child by taking psychedelics in the effort to understand and unwind the traumas in my mind and in my life, because I don't want to pass that on. I'm tired of feeling it anyways. So I have my experience. I'm with two very, very good friends. I wouldn't have done it with anybody else. And it's good because my perspective comes from a place that I didn't get to some ego death, right? There are stages in these experiences, and these stages come with the amount that you take. So for me, I think we all flirted with about between 2.5 and maybe 3 grams. And that's a good amount, that's going to give you an experience. But there were no visions, but they were just a very elevated sense of awareness, sound, vision, color. I felt enhanced, really. I almost felt evolved once this kicked in. There's a little bit of nausea that happens for about 20 minutes. And that's normal, and you're still kind of with yourself to tell yourself, like, all right, this is part of the process, because I knew it was part of the process. If you don't, it can freak you out. So I'm like, all right, don't regurgitate any of this stuff. Don't vomit. Like, you'll be okay. Drink some water. And you have to eat clean before this, and I can see why. Eat clean or really fast. And so we get through that hump, and we're there, and first it's very visual. First it's, I feel safe. I'm with my friends. It's a beautiful day. We're outside, we're in nature, and that's, to me, one of the best places you can be when you have these experiences. And everything becomes bright. Everything kind of starts to almost morph into this. Everything has small tactile shapes. And if you've ever seen The Hunger Games, when Katniss shoots the arrow into the sphere that she's in, and it kind of penetrates that force field, and as it ripples out, you see kind of like a bee honeycomb kind of looking thing. That's what everything kind of turns into. The leaves naturally take their shape in this tactile honeycomb pattern, and so does in the grass. And what's even stranger is I would close my eyes, and those patterns would come in and out of my visions. You see black, but the shapes themselves are almost have this little red line kind of glow to them, and they come in and out and in and out, and they're very apparent. Like, you're not just telling yourself, oh, I think I saw something. You see it. So there's very much a distinct shape that manifests while you're having this experience. And it peaks, and you feel sensations you feel a lot of things. Your sensors are kind of going crazy on you. So we decide to kind of take a little bit of a walk. And as we take a walk, I can tell that the peak of the experience is coming down. We're maybe like 2 hours into the experience. Overall, it's kind of a 4 to 6 hour experience, but really only 1 hour of it is your most intense moment. But I don't even think that hour is really where your benefits come from. Because as we take a walk, we're in there for a while. I feel close to my friends. I feel close to nature. I feel that I can hear just the bugs and the birds so well. I feel the life of the woods, right? Like, you love nature and you know nature's alive, but when everything is this elevated, you feel it pulsating. You feel the forest kind of breathing around you, and it's not scary, but it can feel a little overwhelming. Like, you very much feel like a guest in this domain, but you're intrigued, and it's beautiful. And I can see how hunter-gatherers would take these things as they go on hunts, because your peripheral vision becomes better. You'll be able to see the prey easier from farther away and hear things at a much quicker pace, which will give you an advantage on the hunt. And I feel this. There's this kind of flow of primal energy that just, it pulsates in you when you get to these points. You feel very human, and inhuman. You also feel the animal that you are too. So we kind of go through the forest. We come out through the forest on the other side of this huge, I would call it a pit. It's near my friend's house. And it was beautiful because everything had calmed down, but my emotions were running kind of high. And I've never felt this before, but coming out of the forest, and this is just going to sound like words to you, but when you feel this, it can feel like the most significant thing in your life. But coming out of the forest, walking up the hill, and as you get to the peak of it, seeing the pit, seeing this almost valley with the blue skies, it's like you're emerging from an old self. That's what it felt like. I felt like I was crawling out of what I was. And I was overwhelmed with this sensation of significance. I felt like the moment was significant. My life was significant. I was supposed to be there in that moment. And just saying it now, I can tell that if you didn't have my experience, there's not a lot of weight to it. And I understand that. But in being there and knowing what that feels like, it's very heavy. Because I felt like life was kind of, all right, roll the dice, and I think I'm supposed to be here, and I think this is how I'm supposed to live my life, and I hope I get over all these confusions, and I hope I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and thinking the way I'm supposed to be thinking. And all of that was gone. And in 10 minutes of this overwhelming just sensation of, like, you were watching a predestined movie play out right in front of you. Feeling like something was predestined. Feeling like you stumbled onto a moment that your existence tries to almost hide from you your whole life. You know? So that, like, you work on trying to figure out purpose and meaning, but it's like the experience was like a glitch, and I felt it for a moment. Like, oh, I'm here. I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be alive. I'm meant to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing, whatever that is and whatever that will be. You know, and as we calm down and we come home, and I'll never forget it. For some reason, California Love was on the radio, kind of trekking through the pit on the way back to the house. I don't know, and something about that was very significant. Just the sound, seeing the house, like, it felt like I felt like Frodo coming back from the journey, right? And I'm back, I made it back home. I made it back home a changed man. And that very much was what that felt like. And God, I told myself every day that I was going to try to find a way to find more meaning in that moment and integrate what I get out of that in my daily. And it did. I took a lot out of that moment, and it took a lot away from my life too. I let go of a lot of stuff. When you feel more comfortable in your skin, so much of just your thoughts, you have a realization of just how trivial your thinking is on yourself. You know, you kind of scoff at that internal voice that unfortunately is very self-hating. And when that would now occur, it's like you just look at it like it's silly, and eventually it barely sounded like a pebble in a well. I could barely hear it. And I could tell how much that changed me. And that was just one experience, and I've had multiple experiences, and really all of them were never at a huge dose. So there's still more to explore, but even at the lower levels, there's a lot of transformative things that happen. And even in my second one, you know, I won't go into breaking down the whole event, but I got over a lot of weird adolescent fear that I held on to as an adult by literally just jumping into a warm, shallow lake. Because I feared it. And somehow jumping in the lake and coming out of it, literally in that moment, felt like I let go of like a scared, like, kid that was in me. Because I was scared to even jump in the lake. I'm fucking 30 years old and I'm scared to jump in a lake. Why? Because I have no experience with it. No one took me fishing. No one took me out on a boat. I've barely been on a lake. This is why I'm so fortunate to have the beautiful friends that I have, you know, because they're my friends, but they're mentors for me. I love them for many different reasons. Their intellect, their fucking wildness. I love it, but they're always there for me in these perfect moments, and they show me things that really you would show like a 10-year-old Harry if, oh Jesus, we're at the end. You know, and to get it in your adulthood, you appreciate it that much more. So, you know, so the whole idea was like, I got taken out, got to go on the lake, riding down the experience again, had fear jumping into the lake, jumped in, came out, and I was like, wow, I really held on to a lot of fear. I was a fearful child because I just wasn't put in a lot of experiences. I wasn't put into a lot of experiences to know that this actually isn't scary. This is why giving kids a lot of experiences is good, because not knowing what a boat ride is could give an adult a little bit of anxiety about it. So if you just inundate children with all these things, they have less of it. And that was me. And I felt that moment in a real significant way too. And so I can't really tell you enough just how much this has helped me unwind my mind, create new synapses, right? You get more brain growth factor, you get more gray matter. The sense of disassociation almost conditions your ability to kind of look past or I don't know what you would call it, think twice about people, scenarios, ideas, phenomenons, ideologies, all these things. So it turned me into a more curious person, which I think helped me look into more things, be able to retain more things, become who I want to be more. And in the end, with everything that's kind of gone on with my family, I attribute these experiences as some of the core, if not the soul, what would you call it? the main point, I guess, to where my ability to cope and kind of get through some of this has come from. If I was constantly worried about the skin that I'm in, how could I manage the circumstances? How could I be there for my daughter, my wife? How could I embrace the more pragmatic side of me, right? It's a lot of information I have to remember, to hold, to understand. You know, I have to now try to figure out, I have to know on a surface level, like neurology, biology, so that some of these things I'm trying to understand make sense to me. And I really do think that these experiences have aided me in that. So, yeah, like, if you have similar experiences and you're able to kind of get it across in a decent way, we got to come out of this psychedelic closet, because people are missing out, and some people are suffering, and some people are fucking dying because of the inability to have access to these medications. We've classified them in a way that there's a stronghold on them, and we've demonized them. And when now the literature and the consensus is that this helps addiction, this helps trauma, this helps PTSD, this helps eating disorders, all of these hiccups of the psyche, these help you resurrect how you were supposed to be, and unwind those things and help you understand them. Because it's not just you suffering, it's everyone around you that's suffering. And if these help you help yourself, you're helping your whole family, you're helping all your friends. And you're bringing down just the level of depression and negativity that's really going on right now, you know? So I'm indebted to these medicines, and I will always be an advocate for them. And I don't know, sometimes it kind of leaves me speechless, so I guess I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, if it's something you're interested in, be responsible and do your due diligence, and look into what you should do to prepare yourself emotionally, and go into it, to me, with intent. You know, you want to go watch Dave Matthews on some mushrooms? Go ahead, that's your prerogative. That's what you want to do. But if it has the ability to do other things, if I apply a certain type of intent to it, I'm always going to aim for that. I'm always going to aim to peel the next layer of that onion, because I got to know. And my friends and family deserve it. So yeah, that's it, guys. The magic of magic mushrooms. Or really anything. That's the only thing I've tried, by the way. None of this LSD, none of this other stuff. But it all intrigues me. The ketamine for depression, like, that's a whole nother episode that we'll do. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is a side effect. I get a little dumb when I start talking about it. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, guys.